conversation. The Lord personally wanted to teach this, and therefore he offered so much praise to the Kumaras. Oh my God, Atimirandasya, Gana Shalakaya, Chakshu Anmilitamyena, Tasmai Shri Guruvani Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale, Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri, but Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Taparakamalan, Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha. I am forgetting the rest of this. Shirupam Sahagana Lali Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sarabhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sahagana Lalit Shri Radha Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Sabhutale Bhakti Tirtha Swami Tinamine Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shatatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Swami Iti Namine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpa Tarubhya Shakri Pasidhu Vyevacha Patita Nampavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Hare Bol. So my dear friends, I don't usually say all those different prayers. So yeah, sometimes I'm like, when some places you give classes, they ask you not to do all the prayers because it takes some time. So this verse, Sahal was saying that Prabhupada gave us everything, and that's a fact. Srila Prabhupada gave us everything that we need to know in order to understand bhakti, understand the path of bhakti, and also how to practice on the path of bhakti. So this verse is really key because we see that what's happening is that the Kumaras are praying to the Lord because the Lord has appeared, to them in the Vaikuntha planet. And we know the story. I don't want to have to go through this. I mean, I love to go through the story. However, you have been hearing the story for, I guess, for at least this entire chapter. You've been hearing what's been happening with the four Kumaras and Jai and Vijay. However, just a quick point about when the Lord came, when Narayan showed himself to the four Kumaras. It's key to know why he came and why how did that inspire his coming, the Kumaras to just start offering these prayers. So we see that Narayan he knew that there was a little like something happening right at the gate. But he had already passed through 7 gates, I believe. This was his 8th one. And Jai and Vijay, they didn't know he was supposed to be coming. They were supposed to be coming, the 4 Kumaras. And so, of course, they're gonna stop him because they're protectors for the Lord, right? That's their role. And so they're protecting that gate. And we've learned already why they were protecting the gate and how this happened, that now Narayan is like, okay, let me go there myself so that I can meet these Kumaras, these 4 boys, right? And when he came, we can all remember that the Kumaras immediately became devotees. Just imagine, immediately, because of smelling the tulsi leaves that was on the feet of the Lord. So immediately, because they became devotees, they knew within their hearts that they're to offer prayers to the Lord. this particular verse that we're dealing with, Harbol Varaha Prabhu, so nice to see you. This verse that we're dealing with is addressing how the Lord, when he's apologizing, he came to apologize to the four Kumars for what his servants had done. Jai and Vijay, he was thinking that, okay, Jai and Vijay has offended these Brahmana boys, right? And so therefore he personally came so that they wouldn't have to come into where he was living. And when he came, the four Kumars, they were a little bit like curious. How is it that, the Lord has personally come to see us? And not only that, he's offering apologies. And we're the ones that offended his servants. They're thinking like this. So they've become like humbled by the fact that the Lord has made his presence to them, and that they now are being treated with such respect. They were bewildered, like, why is this happening? And so this is the verse now where the Kumaras are praying to the Lord in the mood of, oh, we have some understanding about why you have come to apologize. We're so lowly. We're just these lowly commoners. Actually, the Kumaras, they were, as we know, they were yogis. They were like empowered yogis, right? They really, they had this ability to travel like they did all over the different planetary systems. They actually lived in Tapaloka. And so because they lived in one of those higher planetary systems, because they were very empowered yogis, they could travel anywhere. So they were just kind of traveling, wandering, and then they saw Vaikunta and they thought, okay, let's go to Vaikunta. Let's just visit. They didn't think, oh, we have to let anybody know, they're yogis, they can go anywhere. And so when as they're traveling and they come to Vaikunta, they weren't even thinking that they wanted to meet Narayan. They just wanted to see Vaikunta. And so when the Lord showed himself, they like understood at this point with this verse that he's only doing this because he wants to show to the people in general, to society in general, the importance of worshiping and respecting the Brahmanas. They understood that. And so now they're praying to the Lord in that mood that, oh, we're so lowly. We're like nobody. But you are offering us, this apology. So here we understand what Prabhupada is bringing in for all of us, for the people in general, that's us, right? And so Srila Prabhupada in this translation, he says, O Lord, you are the protector of the highest of the twice born, right? So the Kumaras, they're saying, okay, in their now appreciating that the Lord has come, in their humility of knowing that they don't really deserve that the Lord apologized to them, they're saying in this mood, you are the protector of the twice born, because remember, they are Brahmanas. So who are the twice born? The twice born are the Brahmanas. If you do not protect them by offering worship and mild words, which means you're doing that as an example, you're coming to us and you're praising us, right? And we've just done something really horrible. Yet you are protecting us. You're showing that we're to be worshipped. And then this translation goes on, and then certainly the auspicious path of worship will be respected by people in general. So now Narayan has come to show, yes, by me praising you, the Kumaras, this will teach everyone that the Brahmanas are to be protected, they're to be respected, because I am doing that myself. I am showing by my example. And then the last part of this translation, which is so beautiful, is explained, those who act on the strength and authority of your lordship. So there, the Brahmanas are acting on the strength of Krishna, of Narayan. Narayan ultimately is Krishna. Krishna is not different from Narayan. I mean, there's a little difference, but however, for the benefit of us here, Narayan is the Lord. Is the Supreme Lord. Is the Lord. I mean, those of you that, anyway, you know that Krishna in his original form never leaves Vrindavan. However, Krishna expands for all of us in different ways. And so here we have this pastime, this beautiful pastime to help us to mm, go deeper with understanding the Brahmanas and what connection they have with the Lord. Why is it that Narayan is so respectful of the Brahmanas? So Prabhupada explains to us that Krishna, he himself set up a system for people in general, for all of us, in order for us to live together as intelligent human beings. And that system is the Vanashram system. And there's a devotee here in Gita Nagari. It's very nice. He's like a Vanashram scholar. His name is Puru Prabhu. And recently he sent a diagram to Ekavir. He gave Ekavir a diagram of a presentation that he's going to be making in Los Angeles on this very intricate system of Krishna that he set up. And so so I was looking at that diagram, and let's see if I show you a little bit of that diagram here. Let's see, yeah. And the diagram is just so beautiful because what he has done is given uh, given pictures, right, to be able to show his presentation about the varnas and the ashrams, specifically the understanding about the brahmanas, the vaishyas, the kshatriyas, and the sudras. Brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, shudras. The way he is going about doing this is simply to bring to the attention of the devotees why this system is important. We know this has been going on for quite some time because Srila Prabhupada himself, coming to Gita Nagari, where we are living, he said that he wanted to come back to Gita Nagari to set up the Varnashram system. He specifically spoke to the devotees and said, this place, Gita Nagari, is where he wants to do that, which is why this devotee is going on like a campaign, another campaign in some places to bring more attention to the system of Varnashram. Now, when we talk about Varnashram, oftentimes we hear about the Brahmanas, how they're supposed, as we're hearing in this translation and in the purport about how they're supposed to be respected and they're supposed to be worshipped. Important to understand is the difference between Varnashram as we've heard it, we know it, and Daivi Varnashram. Daivi Varnashram simply means that everything, each of these categories that we are understanding according to Varnashram, that the foundation of each of these categories is based on understanding Krishna is the instrumental foundation, or he's the foundation of each of these different ashrams, different varnas. And so here, Prabhupada is saying in the Bhagavad, he goes into the purport explaining about the Bhagavad Gita is stated by the Lord himself that the acts and character of great authorities are followed by people in general. So he's speaking about authority, the authority of the Brahmanas. And in I believe it's the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, I'm sorry, Krishna explains to Arjuna about a great person. Whatever a great person does, common people follow. I think that's, if I'm not mistaken, 321, if you can pull that up. Bhagavad Gita 321. This is Papa starts the purport with this statement.
Yeah, I'm trying to put it up. You
Yeah,
may go ahead, but
I'm just speaking while you're pulling it up. That leaders of ideal character, that they're needed in society. And according to this system, those leaders would have been the brahmanas. Those are the persons that are supposed to be educating the society. They are the teachers. They're the ones that give guidance. And so there's emphasis on the character of such persons. And so I just wanted to share what Srila Prabhupada himself said about the brahmanas. It's a verse that everyone, I think many devotees, know this, learn this verse by heart. Yad yada chariti shreshtas tatar eva tarodhyanaha sayat pramanam pramanam kurite lokastadanuvartate. And Prabhupada, I'm sorry, Krishna explains, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. And whatever standards he set by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So here again in the purport, people in general require a leader who can teach the public by practical example. A leader cannot teach the public to stop smoking if he himself spoke. And Lord Chaitanya said that the teacher should behave properly before he begins teaching. So the brahmanas are considered the teachers. They're, as I said earlier, they're the ones that guide the society. And Srila Prabhupada for us is that perfect brahmana, that perfect example of a brahmana, right? He's the person that we all seen by his example, that he was able to change people's hearts. And also, he was able to have people act on making changes within the society. Some of those persons' hearts that he changed, they in fact themselves served the society in such a way that they became teachers, and by their examples. And so this is understanding the brahmanas and how important that they are. Prabhupada emphasized in this purport a lot about worshiping the brahmanas. He says that Krishna, and we see that in this text, that Krishna himself is offering, praise. He's glorifying the Kumars, and Narayan is doing that, showing by his own example, showing how to respect the brahmanas, how important it is to worship them. He says that the Vedic injunction is that one cannot understand the absolute truth simply by mental speculation. Prabhupada explains in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam about Kaitava Dharma, that oftentimes what happens if a person does not really truly understand, we can be cheated, right? If they don't understand the Vedic conclusions, the Vedic injunctions. And so he explains that it's really important, to accept authority, not just the scriptures. Why? Because people often they can change the scriptures, they can misrepresent the scriptures. There's so many ways that we can become cheated by just taking the scriptures, and we see that was done in tradition in previous ages and previous times. We see that there have been many changes in the teachings and some of the Vedic scriptures. For example, I think it was, who was this, that Buddha, he came and he gave a certain part of the Vedic scripture, and then Shankaracharya came after him, and then he gave another part of the scripture. And like this, we see that different personalities can come and they can interpret the scriptures, they can interpret the Vedic injunctions and just share parts of the Vedic injunctions that are relevant for only a certain part of society. And so therefore, Prabhupada says we can't just depend on the scriptures, even though we hear Prabhupada has said that Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, right? Chaitanya Charitamrita is non-different from Lord Chaitanya. Bhagavad Gita is not different from Krishna speaking to Arjuna. So we understand that the scriptures are most important in terms of us developing on this path of bhakti. However, this verse is helping us to understand that we just can't take one and not understand the authority of the person, Bhagavat, of the person that's going to be the example. And sometimes the tendency is to discredit, any authority, because, yeah, realistically, we see that the Brahmanas, who were supposed to be the leaders of society, they were not always true Brahmanas. They were not always authentic, and that's why we have this fall in society. Prabhupada tells us about that. In Kali Yuga, he explains everyone is a Sudra. At the same time, even when he says everyone is a Sudra, within that Sudra person is also some qualities of being a Brahmana, being a Vaishya, being a Kshatriya. And so what's important is how much of that is lost for individual persons in Kali Yuga, where they're not able to act on some of those qualities that may be there within the individual person. And so here, Prabhupada is saying that this Vedic injunction is really, the Vedic injunctions are important. However, without a person to understand that, to teach the Vedic injunctions, to help us with the Vedic injunctions, then we could, he says the whole civilization could be lost. And we see in Kali Yuga that's happening. So my question when I read this verse is understanding more about authority and how Prabhupada emphasizes, the authority. So as I contemplated on that authority, because, authority in this age is not always understood. And frankly speaking, we haven't seen so many very exemplary authority. We often have to go and look at their chariots to understand the mood and the examples of what it means to be, a real exemplary acharya or a real exemplary brahmana. So sometimes we question, authority. We hear that word authority. At the same time, Prabhupada explains that a person cannot really understand anything about the scriptures or cannot make any progress on the path if there isn't some guidance. Prabhupada says we can't do it on our own. So there has to be some kind of teacher. And so then what kind of, so this is a conundrum in one sense that, okay, we must have teachers. The teachers aren't always authentic, right? They're not always the examples that we are hearing in this verse, where we see Narayan is acting as that perfect teacher through humility. So what do we do about that? How do we understand that? And how do we understand how important it is for us to become those exemplary teachers ourselves when we see, as Kali Yuga advances, that less and less people are able to be those kinds of authorities that we're reading that Prabhupada wanted. So this is, it's quite interesting. So for me, what I understand is I look at the example of Srila Prabhupada and those persons that have inspired me to want to learn more about how to make spiritual advancement. Those persons that their examples are showing us, by the way that they live and by the way that they teach and by the way that they behave in their person. Those kinds of persons are the persons that it's important to look for in order to be inspired on this path. because yes, there are also, just like here in this purport, Prabhupada is saying, we can't just take the scriptures. We also can't always take authority. However, authority is most important for us to make this advancement. And so Prabhupada says he gives the example here. He says, if we simply depend on scriptures, he says, yeah, we'll be misled. However, the best path, he says, the best path is to follow the authorities. And so there is a personality that I kind of have some attraction to reading about this person and hearing about this person. I don't know much about him, so I know some things about him, but not enough to be able to just speak from the top of my head. But he's one of our acharyas. He's one of those persons that was an example for us in terms of the scriptures, in terms of being very authentic and wanting to have people understand the conclusions of the Vedic scriptures and being that kind of authority himself, who was an example for everyone. And his name is Ramanuja Acharya. So I'm sure there's some of you that have studied or know something about this personality. So Ramanuja Acharya, he spent most of his life, just reassuring and reconnecting the Vedic, the absolute truth of the Vedic scriptures to even personalities that were very learned. Ramanuja Acharya in his life, I just wanted to read something about in relationship to this, the scriptures and the relationship to authority. It says the authority of the Upanishads and the other Vedic literatures were revived by Shankaracharya. And then it's explained that Ramanuja Acharya himself, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get that specific part. Ramanuja learned his lesson well and soon became one of Yadava's favorite students. Thinking Ramanuja to be a sincere follower of the conclusions of Shankara, Yadava showed Ramanuja special attention, but that affection did not last very long. So basically, this is a relationship between a guru and the disciple, Ramanuja Acharya. And Ramanuja Acharya, he understood the different changes that different philosophers were bringing to the Vedic conclusions or the Vedic injunctions. And so him and his guru, Yadava, they had this amazing relationship where Ramanuja Acharya would explain to Yadava Acharya that some of the philosophers were not actually giving the absolute truth of the Vedas. And so this person, which I won't go much about Ramanuja Acharya, but it's nice to learn about him, that he was so committed to understanding the absolute truth and sharing the absolute truth that he made some major decisions in his life to show how committed he was. And that those decisions were based on him questioning his spiritual teacher. And so when we talk about authority, it's important to know that those persons must be pure and they must be exemplary of that purity. And for that, we can look again, as I said earlier, to Srila Prabhupada. That's our example. That's the person that we have, Srila Prabhupada. And of course, Srila Prabhupada has his representatives who also demonstrate some of that purity. They demonstrate some of that examples of being able to teach by their own behavior to encourage others to take to this philosophy, to try to understand the philosophy. And so basically, what I got from this text is that Narayan was sharing all of these different things about praising the Kumaras, because the Kumaras, they were Brahmanas. The Kumaras, they were authorities in their own right. However, the real lesson here, the real lesson of a Brahmana, if we consider all the qualities of a Brahmana that Narayan was teaching, is that quality of humility. That was what Narayan was doing with the Kumaras, and that's what made the Kumaras really bewildered, because they could not understand how this supreme person, this supreme personality, could come to that, allow himself to be in that position where he was making them seem like they were great persons. This is the mood of being a Brahmana, is Prabhupada says in the purport that a Brahmana speaks mild words. They are to speak mild words. So the example is given here to help us. Prabhupada says to help us to understand this mood of humility. Of all classes of men, the Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas should be given special protection. So this is another part of the mood of taking care of the teachers. In the part of this purport, Prabhupada spoke about, I think, endowment, use that word endowment. So basically, the Brahmanas, they are to be they're to be cared for, they're to be taken. This is the example, right? This is what Narayan is doing. He's caring for the four Kumaras. He's caring for the Kumaras by making himself subservient to them, by offering them praise, and by helping them to understand the mood of a Vaishnava. So here, Prabhupada speaks about these two distinct persons, right? The Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. And what happened with the Kumaras is they realized that even though they were Brahmanas, they're yogis, they're great yogis, that they are subservient to the Vaishnavas just by Narayan's example of Narayan making himself subservient to them in the mood of praising them. And so those two lessons are so important as we examine this pastime, because this mood of being a Brahmana, as we know, in this time of Kali, in this age of Kali, is sometimes we see, there's caste Brahmanas. We see that it's been the Brahmanas in this age, now as the age increases, as the time increases in Kali Yuga for destruction, we see that the Brahmanas have lost so much of their qualification. And so therefore it becomes a little difficult to treat them as authorities. However, Prabhupada instituted the system. So somehow or other, Prabhupada says, if we don't practice this system, then civilization will be lost if we don't practice. So how, and this is my question to all of you, is how are we going to institute the system of pure Brahmanas? Because, Brahmanas are on different levels also. How will we institute the system of understanding the Brahmanas and the mood of the Brahmanas, the mood of the Kshatriyas, the mood of the Vaishyas, in this civilization we're living now, where Prabhupada says we're all Sudras. Yet we need to institute back the system. We need to bring back the system. So how will we bring the system back? And that's my question to all of you. We see Narayan, exemplifying the system with the four Kumaras. So what is it that we need to do in order to institute the system again? Prabhupada wanted it. How are we going to do it? So that's my question to all of you. I'm asking everyone to please share at this time, because I am curious, to be honest with you. I'm like, whoa, okay. Haribol.
Well, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
I
so
see
much.
Leela. Leela wants to share. Saha.
Yes, Leela, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, VRAJALILA. I think that's a very pertinent question, especially nowadays. And one thing I've been thinking about this a lot, and one thing is really the before we can sort of reestablish something at a social level or an organizational level, it has to be reestablished within our own lives, because only when we've realized something and understood something can we transmit it to others. And that's been my experience, that people who really have learned in their lives and have understood how to live the Shastra, they can just say a couple of words, or even like being in their presence and seeing how they live and breathe, that gives the example very clearly of how to live. And so we can talk until, you know, we're like it said, like until we're blue in the face, but if we don't have any actual realization, it won't touch the hearts of others. And so I've been thinking the first step is to see where we are as far as the loss of our qualifications, and to have the humility to recognize, like, yeah, I'm so far away from that. How do I get there? And then the blessing that it gets bestowed upon us if we are really sincere about it. And then just by living, we can share it with others and actually create a difference. Otherwise, I think it falls short of really purifying the heart. But if I don't even acknowledge where my shortcomings are, then how can I actually pray to have it, you know, be purified? So I think it starts with us as individuals, and some painful honesty.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's one thing that you think is important to start with?
An inventory, perhaps, because what can we bring to Krishna or to Guru or to the Vaishnavas if we don't know what we need help with? And then always, you know, with the Maha Mantra, I'm trying to find the realization to know that just by chanting it purifies me. I chant, but I chant because I've made a vow, because I want to believe that this will purify me. So I have to keep reminding myself that this is so. And that's just until I realize that, I need to keep hearing it, like, this will purify you, this will purify you, this will purify you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think this is something, because Prabhupada wanted it, right? Prabhupada is the perfect Brahmana. He's a Vaishnava. It's explained in some parts of the scriptures that Vaishnavas are even more higher. I don't like that word so much, but that's the word, higher than a Brahmana. At the same time, Vaishnavas also must have different certain qualities as the Brahmanas. And Vaishnavas, of course, they're the greatest teachers. So yeah, and Prabhupada wanted this system. As Vaishnavas, he wanted us to implement this system, you know, this Devi Varnashram. So yeah, it's everyone. I guess it's all of our responsibility. Yes. Anyone else? Maybe.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Lila Devi. Because what I wanted to share is pretty much what Lila Devi shared. Because if I want to see something wonderful happen, I should try to live it myself. Or at least I should be encouraging others. And I should be encouraging others to do it up to the point that even if I cannot do it, I should be encouraging those who are trying to make it happen. And sometimes I hear amazing devotees say that don't say anything if you are not prepared to do it yourself, which in one sense is nice, but it's not always the truth. And I use this example. Some of you may know that I like watching mixed martial arts, like boxing. And you see, lots of the time, the coaches, they themselves cannot take a very heavy punch, but they're training their students how to throw a punch and how to absorb a punch. And the mere fact that the coach cannot stand in the ring and box does not mean that he cannot coach the boxer. He can coach the boxer because he himself was one time a boxer. But now in his position, he's unable to do it. And so there may be some devotees who may not be able to do certain things presently in their lives. But that does not mean that because they can no more do it, they should not advise or encourage others to do it. But the bottom line, I believe, is that it's a challenge Srila Prabhupada has given to all of us, that we establish the Varnashram system. Some of us think that it is dead on arrival. We don't even have to attempt it at all, which I think is wrong. If it's dead on arrival, Srila Prabhupada wouldn't have asked us to do it. So if we all try to become the examples of what we want to see in the world, especially in our immediate organization, then we can spread it outside our organization and it will work. This is just my crazy notion. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Saha. Thank you so much. Yeah, I recently got a message or a picture, I think, from Yashoda Mai, our dear god sister. And she was visiting Varaha Prabhu in Lome, and they were distributing prasadam, to some of the people in Lome. And I was just reflecting and just appreciating how simple things like this is a way of sharing, the wisdom of Srila Prabhupada, the wisdom of the Lord, of Krishna, in the sense that when we think of prasadam, we think of, food and we think of, just taste and, different ways that we're satisfying the senses. However, there is wisdom behind taking prasadam, because prasadam purifies the consciousness. And so that wisdom of prasadam is a reflection of a person that is having those qualities of being a brahmana, which is what is needed in this age. As you're saying, Sahal, we may not always be able to do that. Like, I'm not able to do prasadam distribution where I live. However, I can appreciate those others that are doing it. And I can remember the times when I was able to do that and share that as a part of my journey on this path. And so one of the aspects of being a Brahmana in this age, as Vaishnavas, that we can easily do is simply appreciate others. I also saw that there was an opening there's a chat from our Hare Krishna Africa, where sometimes I'm able to go on there, and I was able to go on there the last couple of days. And I saw that there was a temple that was opened, a new temple, I believe in Sonani. And what impressed me as I saw those pictures was the quality of how the devotees were serving those persons prasadam again. I mean, it was so so like, how do I say, just so caring, because it was very, it was served with such professionalism. If thinking of a word that was just the way that the way that everything was set up. From the pictures I saw, the utensils that were being used were the best of quality in order to serve those persons that were coming for prasadam at this new temple opening. And I thought just that act of, again, the wisdom of serving prasadam, and serving prasadam in a way that is attractive and that it's first class, is a way that we can express that mood of being a brahmana. Prabhupada explains that a brahmana is, the qualities is to be peaceful, to be self-controlled, to perform austerity, to become pure, to be tolerant, to be honest, to have knowledge and wisdom. And I think that in the wisdom of Srila Prabhupada, he has given us so many aspects of how we can educate, society in general. And one of them, I think, is the wisdom of serving prasadam. So I really, sometimes I think even me, I might minimize, the glory of distribution of prasadam. However, Prabhupada himself instituted that. Lord Chaitanya, in Navadvip, there was prasadam that was what was attracting people, besides, of course, Lord Chaitanya's understanding of the philosophy. So one of the things I see that we can all do is to take the wisdom of everything that's offered. Like, for example, one of the things we're doing is we're educating people just by understanding the qualities that are important for exemplifying that internal work ourselves. So we have a forum where for ladies, where now this month we are addressing the wisdom of patience. The wisdom of patience. Patience is a quality, is a virtue. It's a spiritual quality. Like, these are things that we can do. We can do these simple things and educate people in how to develop some of these qualities. Because as Leela and you, Saha, acknowledging that we got to do the work personally. And one way to do the work personally is how we develop it and share it with others. So yeah, certainly Prabhupada, is giving us so many intelligent ways by things that he's left us for us to educate the society. And it doesn't have to be just by the words of the Vedas, right? That's there. The scriptures are there. But by our example, as Prabhupada says in the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, by our example, that's how we will do. That's one way that we can introduce in this crazy world the way it is today. Anyone else have some thoughts on this? Yes, Madhuvan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Madam. Thank you for giving us your time. We appreciate you on this platform. Thank you very much. God grace your little feet. The question you asked, how do we implement Vaishnava Varnashram system? I believe is very, very important. And not establishing it perfectly well has been affecting the growth of our movement. I think the first process is that there will be, first of all, be self-discovery. Individuals have to discover themselves, their own nature, and then align it with their occupation. So someone naturally whose nature has a Shastra nature, has to go into administration or military. And those who have the Brahmana nature, priestly, they will stay in the temple Then those who are Griastias, they know, and the Vaishyas, they have to maintain the Brahmanas. So like that, we'll be able to have people in the temple as our priests, and then they'll be able to sustain themselves there. But if the householder now doesn't know his responsibility, he could not understand it on this national system of practice, then he wouldn't know that he has to maintain those Vaishnavas, devotees in the temple. And once this realization is not there, everything will crumble. And that's why we are not having Brahmanas in our temple now, because they be in the temple at the same time, they have to hustle for their own sustenance, which is not good enough. So we have to really understand this system properly. Everybody should understand their responsibility as regards this financial system. And when we now operate concurrently like that, then the system will flow, and there'll be growth, there'll be everything that we want. We'll be able to achieve it. Just in a nutshell. Hare Krishna, Mother.
Thank you so much for reflecting. You know how Srila Prabhupada, when he came, he had so much to do. He had such a vision of how to give Krishna consciousness. And so you know, he at that time instituted the mantra, do the needful, do the needful. And we had so many people put in situations, positions that was not their nature, because it was at that time we had to do the needful. But that's exactly what Prabhupada then said later, we need to establish Varnashram, because he could understand people were kind of messing up some in a lot of ways doing the needful, because people were put into, like, for example, people that had Brahminical qualities, or people, let's say, that had Kshatriya qualities or Vaishya qualities were put into Brahminical roles, and we're totally just disrupting different devotees' hearts. And so so what you're saying, Prabhu, is so important. We need to understand, you know, just our psychophysical nature and what is it that we can offer best, you know, to Krishna and to humanity. This is how we can be mild. You know, like God himself is that example, right? He was mild to the four Kumars. He came and to them, and he showed that mild, humble nature. And so, yes, we need to understand, just, you know, explore within ourselves. What is my gift that I am to give in this society? What am I equipped for? Krishna has given each and every one of us, you know, different psychophysical nature to offer service. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that. Oftentimes we're placed in the wrong situation. Thakur Murari Prabhu.
Okay, Krishna Mother, thanks for the presentation. So I just want to echo what you probably have just said, that one's, one's psychophysical nature. For example, I told my teacher that I didn't like teaching, and the first job I did was I did 1 school year of teaching. I left it, and I went back to the classroom 22 years after my first teaching job, and I spent almost 20 years. And I found that I could teach, I had the ability, but I said I didn't like it. Maybe because I didn't learn enough about it. So one's natural ability is important. So that's, as I said, some of us are multi-talented, some of us are single talented. But what is that I can do and do very well, and naturally we should explore that. So in our interaction, for example, when one say I want to be a member of the organization, I know certain information are gathered. So I'm thinking that that's part of what is there on that form or something, but maybe we don't follow through with it. But one's psychophysical nature is very important. And maybe it's about time we move on there. What I can do very well, and love me to do it. Other things we sometimes so naturally, but what is it I can do very well and like to do? We should be sort of pushed towards that direction. So I sort of echo the sentiments that you have expressed so far. Thanks much.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, yeah, we see that even Krishna says everyone is spiritually equal. At the same time, he says the learned and gentle Brahmana. So that person, you know, they're used, the learned and gentle Brahmana, they're used as a standard of education, right? Because they're in the mode of goodness. So even though we're all equal, yes, it's so important to understand, you know, just, yeah, what is our nature? Urmila Devi Dasi, she's teaching a course called Krishna. I can't remember. Something's going on with my remembrance of things right now. But oh yeah, she's teaching Dharma. Leela, you know?
No, I don't remember.
Career
Dharma.
Korea Dharma. Korea Dharma. Korea Dharma. And Korea Dharma is helping devotees. I just spoke to a devotee that's a regional secretary for a part of America. And she was sharing with me that she took that course and she was saying that she learned so much. This devotee is so sastric. I mean, she's like, she got a photographic memory. This Mataji, I think it's your god sister. Yeah, Leela, it's one of your god sisters. But anyway, she's like a powerhouse in knowing the scriptures. I mean, she's called in so many places to speak the scripture. And she was recently sharing with me that she accepted this role of being a regional secretary. Yeah, because anyway, she was told that by accepting this role, she would get an opportunity to visit different temples and share philosophy. However, it didn't all work out like that, because when you take on a role that says you're a regional secretary, then that means you're going to be doing a whole lot more than just speaking philosophy. And she was realizing, I'm totally not equipped for all of the things that go along with being a regional secretary. And she said, I really want to quit. What do you think? And I was like, well, let's talk about it some more, because oftentimes we do things that we just don't have the nature, to do it. And then what happens is sometimes when we do that, we become miserable inside because we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So yeah, it's very important to develop that mood from being a humble Brahmana. Then Krishna in the heart will help us to understand what is it exactly we're supposed to be doing. What are we supposed to be offering? Just by Narayan taking that humble mood, the Kumaras were able to, in their heart, understand, wow, look at what we've done to your servants. And here you are treating us the way you're treating us. They got that realization. So Krishna is in the heart, always helping us, always, always. He never leaves us. That's his protection. He's always with us. And Krishna says, I am the source of forgetfulness. And I'm the source of remembrance. So if we have a desire to want to know, Krishna, what am I to offer to you in a way that is pleasing to you and also to pleasing for me as a servant, as your servant? What am I to do? Please help me. Krishna will give us remembrance of what we're to do, because we've all done some of these services before. All of us in some other lifetime. Okay, Sahab, turning it over to you.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother, of course, as always.
Yeah. I'd like some input from some of the senior devotees here. Varaha, if you can input Prabhu, I'd really appreciate that. And Govinda also.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Wow, thank you very much.
Shrimavara Prabhu, are you able to turn on your camera?
It's saying that you deactivate me. That's what my telephone is telling me.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking if you can turn it back on.
I'm trying, but it's saying that you deactivate.
Let me see. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Just as you're speaking, Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances so close to Prabhupada. I'm just thinking because this subject of an ashram is my passion. And while you're speaking, I'm thinking a lot. First, two things, major things came to my mind. One is that there is a template already. It's not like it's something new. It exists in the society. It's a natural social body. Head, arms, trunk, legs. That is the example we're given. So the social body exists naturally, and there's a template in place. Are we using the template? That's the thing. Are we using the template? We think we are going to create Varashram, but actually it's already there. If only we will recognize the template. And one example I would like to give, when you, in your last statement, using the example of the Brahmanas, like learned, gentle Brahmanas, they are the examples, even though we are all equals. And immediately it occurred to me, so yes, the teachers, they're naturally humble. You don't see teachers in schools having some air about them serving the society, but they have produced all the different professors, including the leaders of the society. The teachers in the school, they don't carry some air themselves, but they formed all the different stratas of the society, from the military to the head of state to the doctors. They're all products of the teachers, and the teachers are always humble. So the Brahmanas are supposed to be the teachers. But like you rightly said, when you give a Brahmana another duty, like the mother you're talking about, to function as a regional secretary, whereas she's just a teacher. And then she's fried out. So that's what I'm just thinking, we think we have to create Varashram, but the template is already there. Why don't we just respect it? So last point I'd like to say on that is also that it's been mentioned several times during the course of the class from your statement and others about the trainers, about those who train. So those who train, like for instance, you send somebody to be trained as a Brahmana, and the teacher, the one who is actually functioning as a Brahmana, can see that this person cannot function as a Brahmana. And he says, no, excuse me, you have the desire, but your nature is different. We have several cases like this, but in our system, it's like we are constantly on the ad hoc situation where you have to constantly do the needful, like we've never really grown up to the standard where we can, differentiate, different sectors from our society. It's a very unfortunate that after many years, it's like we cannot differentiate. We have not been able. We've tried. I mean, some parts, and like in our own region here, in the beginning, like Gurudev actually gave us some system. We had the Bhakta College, and devotees were going there for training because they could not have adequate training in the temple because there are so many people. So they go to the Bhakta College where they can be concentrated, be trained in a concentrated manner and come out. But all that with time fell apart. So I think we need to put a system in place. That during the Vyasa Puja ceremony, the video that was played, though I didn't listen to it to the end because I'm out of base and I forgot I wasn't having my charger with me, so my PC went off. So Gurudev was saying that we have the philosophy but we do not have the socio-economic structure. But in ISKCON, we have the philosophy, but we do not have the socio-economic structure. So he was actually saying the same thing again, that we don't have the financial in place to make our philosophy, effective. So this it's good that we are observing this and we are recognizing these defects. Maybe Krishna, with time, will allow us to be able to grow beyond the stage we are now today. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say something. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Govinda Prabhu, would you like to share something? Are you driving? Saha?
Yeah, I think he's driving.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
that's very beautiful contribution Shimabara Prabhu shared with us. I have, like I said, I have seen so many times where some people can offer a very wonderful advice to a particular individual, even though he himself might not be able to do it himself, the person offering the advice. But if the person being advised does not become so stupid to think that this person is telling me to do this, but he himself cannot do it, and does it, he will benefit from it. I have also, just like Shimabara Prabhu was saying, I have seen there is a video that actually has been going viral about Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo, that famous soccer player. There was a time that he had to play a game. They were playing a game for the big coach to select who is the right player to be selected to move on to the next higher level. And there was one player who played so beautifully that day. He played way, way, way better than Ronaldo. But when it came to selection, even though he was selected, but he turned it down. And then he asked the coach that, today I have played so wonderfully, but I know I'm not the right person to get this opportunity. Give it to this person. He did not shine today, but I know him. And from that viral video till today, that guy is, according to human capacity, is fully taken care of by Ronaldo. Because Ronaldo is now so rich, and he is not rich simply because he is there, but his riches is based on his performance. And this other guy, he knew that. He shone that very day, but he's not someone who could do it consecutively, continuously, like Ronaldo could. And he was right. He did that. And so sometimes the guru may see something very amazing in one particular devotee. That devotee at that particular time might not even have the interest in pursuing that particular thing. But the guru, that is why it's called guru, is heavy. He knows more than we know. He can tell that this person can do better in this area. At this present moment, he does not realize it himself, but I'm going to put him in there. And the guru may put the person there. He may struggle, but eventually he will come out successfully. So to me, the challenge is what Srila Prabhupada said in the purport, and you yourself, you also referenced it, that we put it on the screen, 321, following great leaders in society. And you also made reference to Ramanuja. Ramanuja Acharya gives purport to that particular verse, 321. And Ramanuja talks about great devotees of the Lord, not just ordinary leaders in society. And he gives example. He says the precedent verse, which is 320, Krishna actually names a particular devotee, Janaka. These are devotees of the Lord who lived by example. And so the challenge personally I have is that I'm sitting here initiated as a Brahmana. I have a Brahmin thread around my neck. I'm here, I'm called Sahadev Das, following a Vaishnav institution. And yet I do not have the qualities. And so there may be another person having the same tags as I do and may not have the qualities. Yet, this person wants everybody to do as he does, as he says, even though he may be doing something contrary to what is expected of a Brahmana, what is expected of a Vaishnava. This is the challenge we have. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, thank you, Guru. This is Kali Yuga, right? People are claiming to be qualified in areas where we're not maybe so qualified. Yeah, I thank you so much, Varaha Prabhu, for what you shared, because yes, Krishna did give the system, and the system is there. Prabhupada introduced the system, and now it's like we need to implement it. And yeah, what you're saying, Saha, I personally remember in my own life, when I was a new devotee, I'm still new, but when I was really new, when I was in Africa, actually, I was really shy, very, very shy. I mean, really shy. I wouldn't like to give a class or to speak out, or I couldn't do it. And when we came back to America, and we started the Institute, I remember my spiritual master saying to me, you're going to need to start speaking. You're going to need to start, giving classes. You're going to need to start. And I was like, no, I can't. I can't, like this. And he says, yes, you will. So one time I was invited by a devotee to come to a program. It was mainly non-devotees. It was a non-devotee program. And this devotee invited me to share something about my path. And I remember I just could hear my spiritual master, saying, you're going to need to do this. And so at that time, I was like wanting to say no, but I couldn't, because I could hear his voice. And so I stood up to speak, and I can still remember that today. That was the first time I challenged myself to speak in public. On my knees, I felt like my knees would give out because they were shaking so much. My voice was just like, whoa, it was just really an amazing experience. And so, yes, sometimes we can do things just because the spiritual master empower us, to do that. And then sometimes we can really take those things, and they may be our nature. They may be a part of our nature, but we may never have been aware of what that might, that we had that nature, just because maybe it wasn't cultivated, or just because the social system wasn't, active enough to say this is something you can do, like that. And so now that's the question for us, is how are we going to help and empower others to understand what they can give, what they can offer, to Krishna. So yeah, I appreciate what you shared, Sahas. It's very deep, very, very deep. And I appreciate Varaha Prabhu so much, because he speaks and he does, and he also acts. And so when we have people that can do that in our institution, then we can listen, right? We can listen. That's the main point that Narayan is making here, is that he listened. He came to listen to the four Kumaras, basically. I mean, that besides his humility, he was open to listening to them. Tell me your part of the story. What's going on for you? Like that. And that was God. That was God doing that. So listening is such a quality. I see Hamsaduta, and after Hamsaduta Prabhu, we're gonna, if it's okay with you, Saha, we're gonna close.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. My apologies. I received a call, and I had to pick the call. But sorry if it interrupted.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, dear mother. Please kindly accept my respectful obeisances. All glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to you, and all glory to the wonderful Assembly devotees. I'm so happy to see all of this face again here. And I was on the platform on Saturday, and a lot of things were shared. And I'm I was feeling so fortunate to be there. And thank you so much, all of you, for the wonderful things you share. I might be able to take the nectar. And the question you asked, I'm not qualified to share my opinion because this is beyond me. But I have a question. But what little I want to say is that I'm pleading on all the senior devotees, the disciples of His Holiness Bhakti Swami Maharaj, that whatsoever is happening, it is going to have effect on us, with the second generation or the generation who are coming. So I'm begging that if something has to be taken care of early, then I'm pleading that it has to be done. Because, like I said, if anything negative is going on, we are all going to learn from that. And this is, what is the life are you going to live when all of you are not there? So I cannot say much. So this is my plea. And the question I want to ask is, the four Kumaras, it is said that in the spiritual world, there is no anger, or everything is auspicious. So when they are cursing Jagai and Magai, what mood was that? Because to curse somebody, you need to have some anger in you to curse the person. So what mood was they having when they were cursing Jagai and Magai? This is my humble question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Prabhu, I appreciate your question. It's a question that was answered in the previous verses, that the four Kumaras, they were impersonalists, and they were empowered yogis. They were not pure devotees of the Lord. And so, they did have anger. And so a person can be very highly advanced spiritually and still have that anger emotion. Because all of the emotions, they actually come from, they're perverted reflections of what's there in the spiritual world. So even in the spiritual world, even in Goloka Vrindavan, there are expressions of anger. However, those expressions of anger are directed in love to Krishna, right? They're not for themselves. They're not just I'm personally offended or disturbed like the Kumaras were. When the Kumaras got an opportunity to smell the tulsi leaves of Krishna's, on Narayan's feet, then automatically they became pure devotees. And so then they immediately were regretful for what they had done. So previous to them becoming devotees, just like we experienced that in our own lives. Before we became devotees, we might get easily angered, easily disturbed, right? Easily. But as we get knowledge and as we serve the devotees, as we become more aware of what the qualities are of a devotee, perhaps we are able to control our anger a little more each time. And so the Kumaras, yes, they were angry because they had an entitlement mentality. I am entitled to being in Vaikuntha because look, I come from Tapaloka. I am this great yogi. Why are you not letting me in? Not understanding that Jaya and Vijay had their instructions also, which was given to them by Krishna, by Narayan, personally. So, yes, anger is an emotion, but this emotion of anger is a beautiful emotion because that beautiful emotion of anger points to a direction. And that direction helps us to understand, if we're sincere, what's going on, either within ourselves, which is why the Kumars became humbled by Narayan appearing to them, or that anger emotion, we can just let it use us to be more affected by Maya, Krishna's external energy. It's always up to us. Krishna gives us choices, right? We always have choices. But anger itself is not a bad thing. Anger is simply an expression to help us to understand more. It helps us go in the direction that can help us or can destroy us.
Oh, thank you so
Divya,
much. I'm so grateful.
Divya,
But this is what was going through my mind.
Divya,
And in
Thank you
relation
so
to
much.
what you first said, Prabhu,
Divya,
I don't know
I'm
what you were
I'm
saying.
very sorry. I didn't want to say anything, but it just come out. So I'm not so
Okay,
qualified to talk about that. So forgive me,
no worries.
everybody.
It seemed very deep, very mystical that it came out, whatever it was, and it seemed like a sincere appeal from your heart. And it would be nice for you to speak to the disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj and express, just exactly what's happening with you. And if you can't do that, you certainly can do that with me. You can call me and you can express your heart. I'm here and I'm open. I really want to hear what's happening for you.
Yes, mother. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Hare Krishna, Deha Saha.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, we thank you all as always. Usually, especially devotees in the US, first day of clock change creates a little bit of confusion. So I'm sorry that Mother Vraj, you got to begin the confusion change of clock, which is today. But we believe from tomorrow onwards, devotees in the US in particular will become acquainted with the change and not get here earlier than expected, or maybe think that the Srimad Bhagavatam is not going on and do not show up. But like we were saying, because of the time change, Saturday night into Sunday, which is just 2 days ago, those of us in the East Coast, we were coming in at 10 a.m., but now it's been moved up to 11 a.m. And so that applies to all other time zones within the country. So remember to do that. Those in West Africa, they don't have to worry about that because they don't need to do any clock changes. Again, thank you so much for this very all-important message we need to hear. And we only pray, and we only pray that we can try to act on what we're hearing. Because if we just hear, and we are not doing anything, it means we are not hearing, we're just listening. There is a difference between listening and hearing. So we pray that we can hear, which means that we make steps towards implementing what we're hearing. So thank you with that. We're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute yourselves, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our deepest appreciation to our revered speaker, Her Grace VRAJALILA, for sharing her love and wisdom with us all today. Please, you may all unmute Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare
Vancha kalpa
Chaka
tarupasya kripa sindhu vacha jana bhavani
Namo Namaha.
Our Grace Srimati VRAJALILA Devi Dasi Jai.
Yeah.
This comes from the Charles Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
I didn't see you on the spot.
I'll work.